Hey, do you like tight ends ruining your fantasy DFS day? Me neither. PreSnap starts right now.
585, ready.
You're listening to the PreSnap podcast, brought to you by LineStar, the top-rated DFS tool set and #1 companion for DraftKings, FanDuel, and Yahoo Daily Fantasy. Go LineStar Premium now at LineStarApp.com. Now, here are your hosts, fantasy football experts Joe Pisapia and Chris Meaney.
Hey, yo, what's up, everybody? It's me, Joey P, Joe Pisapia, and welcome to the PreSnap right here on the LineStar app. It's me, and it's Chris Meaney, and it's you, and what a wacky, wacky day of football Sunday, week 14 was. My goodness, Chris Meaney, all of those tight ends catching touchdowns, all of us looking at each other going, huh? Who's that guy? Why is that guy catching a touchdown? Lots of guys last minute not playing. Josh Jacobs, he was a no-go. Le'Veon Bell, his tummy hurt or something. All I know is what a mess for the first week of playoffs for season-long football. And for DFS, if you didn't have a good chunk of that 49ers Saints game, it was a pretty rough day.
Yeah, it was a rough day. I'll be honest. I didn't cash anywhere in any tournaments, and I had some Jameis Winston. I had a lot of Jameis too. The old naked Jameis. Been playing a lot of him. I mean,
old naked Jameis. Naked Jameis got run out of town.
Jameis. Yeah,
naked Jameis.
It's amazing where he is. I think he's second overall in touchdowns and yards and passing attempts. But another game where you watch him real life and you're like, ugh, this guy doesn't seem like he's going to be a buck next season. But again, from a fantasy standpoint, 456 yards passing, rushing touchdown, threw for 4. So naked Jameis probably just going to be Jameis and Godwin moving forward, of course, with Mike Evans. It was a weird week, lots of injuries. I didn't nail any of those tight ends at all. I didn't have a whole lot of that San Fran and Saints game, as you alluded to. It was almost 100-point score in that. I think my best tight end call
that I didn't like. I had Kamara, and that really didn't do what I wanted it to do. I thought, I had some Thomas too, because there's no way I go into a DFS weekend without some
Thomas, right? But I mean, if you didn't have Breeze, the Breeze Thomas. I mean, Cook left early, but he had 2 touchdowns. I think the only tight end I hit was Ian Thomas from Carolina. But other than that, Mike Gesicki was disappointing. Jack Doyle was disappointing. There was a lot of disappointments and a lot of big names just going down. It was an ugly week, man.
Yeah, Mike Evans now done for the year. He got a touchdown. At least he did something on the way out.
Yeah, the one catch on the way out, a 60-yard score. Catch. He's done for the year.
There it is, and he's done. So he's done for the year. Darius Geis with an MCL probably done for the year, which is really sad because I had tons of shares of Geis this week, and he looked good in the beginning of that game too. Again, everything was rolling. It was going to be good, and then boom, there it is again. Just incredibly sad. Rashad Penny, he's out.
Calvin Ridley is done.
Calvin Ridley. I mean, geez, we were just talking the last couple of weeks. Injuries kind of tailed off a little bit. Oh my goodness, they all just reared their ugly head again. It was absolutely brutal week for injuries, and that ruined a bunch of lineups too. I had a lot of Geis shares. That was not a happy time for me, but this is what happens. This is why it's a difficult thing, and we've had really good runs here. The last couple of weeks have been spotty. Chris was still good last week. I was not. I was better this week. This was Chris's bad week. So, hey, things are getting wacky here, and we all know, Chris, towards the end of the year, last couple weeks of the season, a lot of defenses pack it up and go home. We're going to be seeing some points here over 15, 16, and 17, so get ready. Let's start talking about these quarterbacks. As Chris mentioned, Winston, from a fantasy perspective, you got to love it, 456, 4 touchdowns. Now, he did throw 3 picks because that's what Winston does. But speaking of other quarterbacks you want to own, Ryan Tannehill, my favorite quarterback on the slate. Yes. He did deliver. I was very pleased. I had 2 favorite quarterbacks. If you listened to last week's show, it was Ryan Tannehill and it was Deshaun Watson. Now, I know the Texans didn't win, but he did rush for 2 touchdowns and throw for 1. And Tannehill, 391, 3 touchdowns, 2 went to A.J. Brown. I guess that's the pairing going forward. But my goodness, Chris, Tannehill basically has made this Titans team playoff relevant again.
Oh, absolutely. In one of your Black Book leagues, Tannehill might bring me to a championship. I mean, in a 2-quarterback setting, he's been by far.
I got him in flex. Same thing. He's right there.
Yeah, he's been by far my best quarterback in that league. And you know what, in the NFL over the past few weeks, I've seen some stats float around. I mean, we'll give some credit to Nate Hamilton friend of the show, JJ Zacharyson, just more fantasy points per game over the last 8 or 9. I believe since he came in, since a guy like Patrick, compared to a guy like Patrick Mahomes, for example, like this is what he's doing. And when you look deeper into the numbers, since he came in the league this year, I suppose, because he was just back behind Marcus Mariota. The offense is great. We know we know about Derrick Henry, but they're playing at a faster, up-tempo pace overall in yards per attempt passing. Number 1 in the league. Ryan Tannehill, 9.8 completion percentage, 73.4.
Sign him now to get it done.
Well, that's what they were talking about before the game. I mean, some rumblings and some reports out of Tennessee that they're going to look to extend him, and why not? Yeah, 73.4 completion percentage is right behind Drew Brees at 73.6. So he's been great. He's been awesome. I mean, 200 fewer passing yards than Brees on the season, and they basically played the same amount of games. So he's been awesome. Yeah, he's been great. And AJ Brown is, I mean, my goodness, he's that boomer bust guy, but he's extremely explosive, and he's been fun to watch as well.
You can argue in the second half of the season, one of the better GPP wideouts because he's always been cheap.
Yes.
And yeah, it's going to miss sometimes, but when it hits big. It's like 2 touchdown big. And you got to love those days. I mean, it's just been fantastic for him. And look, it's also Derrick Henry season. Let us not forget Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry year.
2 more touchdowns. I'm telling you, he's going to lead the league in rushing. I said at the beginning of the year, I'm this close, Chris. I can sense it. It's like right on. I can touch it. It's right there. It's so close.
What is he? I think he's 40 back now, perhaps, of Nick Chubb?
Something like that. It's less than 50. That's all I know. I'm right there, and CMC is going in the wrong direction. Everything is coming up Derrick Henry right now. Let's do the other quarterbacks too, because Drew Brees, 5 touchdowns, as Chris mentioned earlier, 349 for him. But Jimmy Garoppolo, not to be outdone, he threw for 349 and 4 touchdowns. So I was impressed with Garoppolo in this game. This was a big spot. He's been up and down a little bit this year. Great performance by him, and also a great performance by the wide receivers too. Nobody wanted any Emmanuel Sanders. He had a great game there, caught a touchdown, went for a big yardage total. Debo was good. George Kittle had that huge catch, then the face mask run. So the 49ers showed a little bit of grit in this game, and I cannot wait for week 17 where you got them and the Seahawks week 17. Oh, baby. Whoa, was that going to be fun to watch?
It is going to be fun to watch. And you know what? It's going to be fun to watch in week 16 against the Rams, too, who are still alive after a win last night against Seattle. So, yeah, Jimmy, I was more impressed with Jimmy because I've seen it before from Drew Brees. I mean, it was very impressive. I mean, San Fran had allowed the second fewest fantasy points to quarterbacks. I mean, Aaron Rodgers didn't even have 200 yards against them. Russell Wilson had struggled. There were some quarterbacks that really struggled against San Fran, and Drew Brees was fine. So that was certainly surprising, but I was more impressed with Jimmy Garoppolo and just Kyle Shanahan. The play calling was phenomenal. That was a really entertaining football game to watch, but some end arounds. Emmanuel Sanders caught a touchdown pass. He threw a touchdown pass. Raheem Mostert looked really, really strong. We were right about Tevin Coleman. Let's fade this guy. It's a tricky backfield to get involved with, but Raheem Mostert, he runs hard. He's catching balls out of the backfield. Again, a receiving touchdown and a rushing touchdown. So I was just extremely impressed. Jimmy Garoppolo answered a lot of my questions because I still had some against Green Bay. I was like, yeah, okay. He showed some things. Seattle a few weeks ago didn't like it. Arizona had those 2 4-touchdown games against them. I was like, it's just the Cardinals. In Baltimore, okay, he did a couple of things again in bad weather in Baltimore, had a chance to win the game. But I mean, against the Saints, to going toe for toe with Drew Brees and marching his team down under a minute left to get the game-winning field goal, it was phenomenal stuff. And it's too bad. I was completely wrong. I thought this was going to be like maybe a 24-23 type scoring game, and then geez, we almost saw 100 points.
Oh yeah, they had the over by the half, and then both teams hit the over individually. Okay, can I get an amen on that, please?
Wow.
How's that for a fun little nugget? You like that?
I do like that.
One more fun thing: Drew Lock. Who saw that coming? 309, 3 touchdowns.
He looked good.
He did. What the hell was that? The Texans go from being the Patriots. First, they get blown out by the Ravens. Then they beat the Patriots pretty soundly.
Yeah.
And then they lay an absolute turret at home against the Denver Broncos. I don't know what's up from down anymore. I have no idea. NFL is getting wacky. I feel like, you remember when during the summer we were doing baseball and we were like, talking about like some days the FanDuel pricing was drunk. That's what I feel like the NFL season. Like it's starting. It's like, who is that? Who's that? Tyler Higbee. Yeah, let's make him the most relevant tight end. That sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, geez. Higbee awesome. And I think I
Oh,
double checked.
Hayden Hurst had a bunch. I mean, come on. What the hell is happening?
And Cooper
By the
Kupp, I
way,
had to double check this morning. Cooper Kupp playing 55% of the snaps, and like Higbee being so involved. I'm like, wait, what?
not only that, Robert Woods caught his first touchdown of the
And Mike
entire
Williams.
season.
And
And Mike
Williams.
Williams. So
And
there you go.
It was
By
a
the
wacky,
way,
wacky week.
speaking of baseball, congratulations, my friend, because our show,
Oh, yes.
the baseball version of this show, if you enjoy the pre-snap and you like DFS baseball, the
deck,
DFS
baby.
version, that's right, on deck, right here on the LineStar app. We were nominated for Best Podcast of the Year by the Fantasy Sports Gaming Association. So big shout out and thank you to Eric and to Dan and to you, my friend, for being the co-host 5 days a week with me on that program. We had a great run. It was magical. I had people also message me who said they listened to the show even if they didn't play DFS baseball because they just love the half hour of baseball talk that we did breaking down the games. So congratulations to you, Chris Meaney, because that's like one of your 7 nominations. You're like Meryl Streep. What the hell's going on there?
I don't know. It all started with you, though. It's and congratulations to you as well. Yeah, I don't know, man. A good vibe. It was a fun show. We had some people, like you said, who weren't really into DFS and just wanted to hear us go back and forth and talk about the slate. We were calling some home runs. We were getting people involved. Call some home runs.
They called all the home runs. Come on.
But you said it best too. Like a shout out to Eric and Dan. They've been phenomenal to us. The LineStar family here, like Ryan Humphreys and Greg Landry. They've been great.
Ryan and Greg too.
The app is phenomenal. It was a fun ride, and I can't wait to start again with you. I mean, it's winter meetings. Baseball is here.
The Steven Strasburg sign, so much to get to. And we also, I've been doing the live radio from the winter meetings. I'm not in San Diego. I'm still stuck in New Jersey. My co-host Craig Mish got to fly out to San Diego because he's more important than I am.
Must
but
be nice.
Yeah, I'm not bitter at all about that. I'm sitting here. It's 40 degrees and raining, and I'm out there at the umbrella waiting for my kids to get off the bus. And he's out there in San Diego having drinks at the bar. Talking to baseball players. So so that's the difference between our lives. But anyway, I showed the LineStar tools to my TV partner on Sunday mornings to Mike Blewett, a friend of ours, and he was blown away. He's like, wow, this is incredible. I said, no kidding. And if you haven't already, make sure you go over and get that LineStar app and make sure you are downloading and upgrading to that premium product for God's sakes. And I was showing him all the different sort tools and how easy and user-friendly it is, because I feel like people get intimidated by DFS because the amount of information. Absolutely. And I feel like LineStar app just really sorts it all very well. It presents it very well. The player cards with the information you need. It's just, I like things simple. I like things simple and well executed. Just like the Black Book, which will be out January 1st, by the way, whenever Chris Meaney finishes his section. January 1st, it'll be out. But baseball's around the corner. And again, want to thank everybody at FSGA and everybody here at LineStar for all the support. Let's get back to the rushing leaders. Joe Mixon, how about that? 23 for 146 in a touchdown. Aaron Jones had a huge day, 16 for 134 rushing and a rushing touchdown. We mentioned Derrick Henry. Your boy Nick Chubb was, again, like we said, kind of limited, by Kareem Hunt, who once again, Kareem Hunt was the guy with the touchdowns. I thought Devin Singletary had a very good day as well, kind of under the radar. Next year, I'm very excited about Devin Singletary. I'm very excited to see where Hunt ends up, and I'm very excited to see Austin Eckler, Mr. 100 and 100 yesterday, who had barely touched the ball. Like, he touched the ball like 4 times, and he had 200 all-purpose yards. It was crazy. It was a crazy thing to watch. But Austin Eckler, man, outside of 1 week, he's been double digits every single week of the season.
Yeah, Jacksonville is just, they're atrocious. But yeah,
I folded up the tents. Is that what you're looking for?
Man, they're just so bad. But yeah, credit to Austin Eckler for sure. RB4 on the season right now in a half-point setting, and you're right. You go look through the game log and you try to find the games where he's been bad, and it just seems like it was right around when Melvin Gordon came back and they didn't really know what they were doing. Other than that, it's been Austin Eckler. He was phenomenal as the bell cow back when Gordon was taking a seat, and he's been phenomenal when they made the OC change. Ever since they made that OC change and they decided that they were going to lean on both guys and run the football a little bit more. So yeah, he's been he's been great. He was awesome. The LineStar app liked him. You mentioned the LineStar app. The LineStar app was all over him, his values that turned out to be okay. Bilal Powell wasn't phenomenal. DeAndre Washington, they weren't phenomenal, but they did enough in terms of just their pricing. And both the LineStar app was all over them at 3K.
And it was all over Galladay as well.
All over Galladay, which was great.
Yeah, that was another really
Aaron
good
Jones,
call there.
another one too.
Yeah, it was. And Dalvin Cook did enough as well to get the job done. The receiving, we already mentioned Mr. Brown, who is quite good. But there were some other guys too. Emmanuel Sanders, 7 for 154. Michael Thomas is just Michael Thomas, 11 for 134 and a touchdown. I'll tell you what, man, CMC 2 weeks in a row, no touchdowns. I don't know, man. This was the week I made the case for him. I thought he would get back against Atlanta. Nope, not so much. He's DTM the rest of the season as far as I'm concerned. Hopkins, 7 for 120 and a touchdown. Nice to see him have a good game. Robbie Anderson, who we talked about a ton. It's been a Robbie Anderson finish to the season, 7 for 116, the score for him as well. And speaking of tight ends, Noah Fant, 4 for 113 and a touchdown. I'll tell you, ever since Joe Flacco disappeared, Noah Fant's been mighty good, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has been really good. Let's keep an eye on him this week. He looks like he's another one that suffered an injury, a foot injury, but he's been awesome. And again, Drew Lock, I was impressed with Drew Lock. I don't know what classic letdown spot from the Titans, or from the Texans rather. I mean, they beat the Pats last week. They look great. They're feeling themselves. And then they just really don't even show up last week against Denver, who has kept things close. I was on the spread with the Broncos. I wasn't surprised that the Broncos came out to play, but I was just surprised that Houston didn't come out to play. And all of a sudden now, in 2 of their next 3 games are against the Titans. They're not a lock to win the division or make the playoffs. So they need to get back to playing football. But I was impressed with Drew Lock. He's made Noah Fant viable, and again, Sutton, he's spreading the ball around. So I'm interested to see how he finishes up in his last 3 games as a rookie. And you're right, Noah Fant. Over to wide receivers, back to Houston again, because I had some Watson and some Hopkins as like contrarian plays, and they did okay. They were fine. But I also sprinkled in like a little bit of a mega stack with Kenny Stills, and Kenny Stills is just nowhere to be found, really. Like, he's playing snaps, but he's not getting targeted. I think he had 2 targets, only really in a catch. You would think with Will Fuller's sideline, he'd get some more work, but it was Kiki Kuti who was getting some work there. So I think Kenny Stills is just completely off the radar here over the next couple weeks. And yeah, my bad for suggesting him. I know I didn't make the show last week, but I have been suggesting him as like a deep tournament option. But yikes, he's not a factor with Fuller off the field.
He's not when Fuller's there. That's true. But look, 3,700 was worth the dart throw this week.
Yeah,
it made sense in the matchup. And I'll tell you what, Mike Randall was all over the Broncos covering too on the wagering show.
Compete. So they're in every game. They've been in.
They
look
play
at their
defense.
record overall.
Defense helps you keep those spreads pretty close.
Yeah, look at their record overall, and again, like I look early on in the season, when they lost to Oakland, but that game against Chicago, they were there. I think there was a play at the very end in Jacksonville where they easily could have won. So, you look at their schedule and they're just, okay, right around 4 or 5 games below 500, but there's a lot of games that they probably could have won. So not a huge disappointment from the Broncos. They've hung around all year.
All right, before we hot take week 15 in a second, let's look at Monday, Thursday. We've got the Eli Manning return. So we get Eli Manning face again, which God knows I've missed. So you got Manning against the Eagles, and then you've got the Jets at Ravens, which, on paper, you would expect a Thursday night short week Ravens home game to be a blowout. I feel like that's the way we should think about this. Now, the Jets are pretty good against stopping the run. I'll tell you what, if the Jets beat the Ravens somehow, I don't know what to say. Like, if that happens, I'm out. Like, I don't think it's going to happen either. So is this as simple as going Ravens defense, Lamar Jackson, and just kind of get that pairing and solidify that and then just fill in the rest? Or do you want to take your chances with Wentz against a bad Giants defense, or Eli Manning against a bad secondary? He hasn't played all year really. So what? So week 2, I think was the last time we saw him, maybe week 3. So where are you at here with your approach when it comes to Monday, Thursday this week?
Yeah, I think the 2 quarterbacks I want to take shots on are Wentz and Lamar. You wonder how much play Lamar is going to get in this game. That's the one fear. If it gets to the point where it's in the 4th quarter, like it was a few weeks ago when he played the Rams, he probably did enough to help you out anyways. In that game where he hardly touched the field in the 4th quarter, I think he had like 45, 46 fantasy points, which is just unbelievable to even think about. They're 15 points home favorites against the Jets. We don't even know if Le'Veon Bell is going to play. How healthy is he going to be? How productive is Sam Darnold going to be against this defense? They don't really give up a whole lot. So I like the Ravens defense for sure. I would make them my captain in some spots. I'd go back and forth between Wentz and Lamar and Eagles D and Ravens D maybe as some captains. But I do like Wentz. I mean, we've been all over him, and it's been warranted. But last week, I know it was against the Dolphins, but even still, it's against the Giants, so it's a pretty good spot. Alshon Jeffrey comes back. He gets 16 targets, catches 9 balls for 137. Dallas Goedert has been a factor over the past couple weeks as well, so he gets some of his weapons back. I like Miles Sanders, and I like Wentz. On the other side, I wonder who Eli's favorite guy is going to be. It's been Sterling Shepard in the past, but I think he may get involved with Golden Tate. So I think Golden Tate is sneaky as well tonight.
Yeah, that would make sense. I think Golden Tate's a good play as well. That certainly does make sense from that standpoint. All right, let's hot take a little week 15 here, and let's start things off with the Patriots and Bengals. A little rumors flying around here I see on the internet that somehow the Patriots are being investigated again. Like, what are we doing
What
here?
for
like,
what this time?
I don't know, something about videotaping the Bengals. Like, they're not even playing the Bengals yet. How does it even work?
We're on to Cincinnati.
We're on to Cincinnati
For
where
real.
we have video teams, but whatever. Now, the problem is the Patriots offense is certainly not rolled ever this year. It's really not. And they have a lot of problems in the red zone. We've talked about that. Do you know they have the least amount of passes to tight ends this year in the entire league? Can you imagine that? The Patriots of all teams. So Austin Hooper and Hunter Henry are free agents next year. My guess is one of those guys is going to end up in New England. I'd be shocked if they didn't, to be honest. I mean, they got to fix that situation. That's you cannot exist in the NFL that way nowadays.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I mean, Austin Hooper would be a phenomenal get for them. Yeah, even Hunter Henry. So yeah, we've talked over and over. It just seems to be Edelman, and that's it. The run game is not existing. You would think against the Bengals defense has actually been pretty good over the last few weeks. Carlos Dunlap was named Defensive Player of the Week. They're generating pressure. They had a couple picks yesterday against Baker. So I don't think this is just because it's New England. I don't feel like they're going to be able to go into Cincy and score 30-plus points. I still think, honestly, it will be a struggle. But they need somebody to step up, Joe, other than Edelman and White. It needs to be somebody else in that offense.
The problem is there's nobody to step up. I mean, Harry's had some moments. Honestly, Harry, I think, is their best option to do that because Jacoby Myers keeps dropping balls like they're hot, man. I mean, he's just a hot mess there with dropping balls. And I don't know. I don't see it happen. I just don't think they have the roster to do it. And I know
you're probably right. I mean,
I know no one's sad about this in the NFL except me. I get it. Like, nobody cares. You know, here's the smallest violin in the world playing for the Patriots getting screwed by the referees. And they did. Let's be honest.
They really did.
They really did. Like, if they're going to get screwed, this was an epic screw job there. And we've seen it this year happen a ton where the referees, they should, if you touch the pylon, call it a touchdown. That's just automatic. Yeah. You can always go back and reverse it. It's the way to do it. It's the safer way for the integrity of the football game to do that. Let alone have this other guy run down the field and all of a sudden be like, no, he was out. How could you see he was out? There was a chief defender right in between him and N'Keal Harry. I don't understand how he could possibly say that he saw it. And then on top of that other play where they didn't blow the whistle, that would have been an easy 6 for Gilmore too. So that was a brutal situation. The refs really did screw them, but again, nobody cares because it's the Patriots, and that's fair. It's totally fair. I get it. But would you get in onto this game here against the Bengals?
You know, I know Sony Michel has been so bad. Do they just get away from him now? I know they try.
I don't know.
I was surprised that they didn't try to run the football a little bit more against the Chiefs. I mean, that opening drive, it reminded me a little bit of Dallas, the opening drive Thursday night against Chicago. And, you know, they have their game script, their game plan. They come out and they're slinging it. They look great. They score a touchdown. Then all of a sudden it's like, what happened? But the Bengals, I mean, nobody's allowed more rushing yards per game than the Cincinnati Bengals. And if they probably are going to have their way on defense. Like Andy Dalton and company it's going to be a struggle for them to score points. I wonder if this is a Michelle game to get him going, or if he's just completely done now and that experiment seems over. He's obviously not 100% with the knee injury. It's been like this for years, before he was drafted. But
listen, anyway, next year, dude, it's going to be Kareem Hunt.
Gone.
It's going to be Kareem Hunt, Austin Hooper, Edelman.
Odell Beckham. Odell.
No, I don't think it's gonna be all those guys, but it's gonna. I don't think Odell's gonna end up with Tom Brady. I don't see that happening. I think there's a better chance of Antonio Brown than there is Odell. I'll tell you what. But they're going to go out there and they're going to put some pieces back because you can't have a defense who's played this well and then not have a championship or at least a Super Bowl appearance to show for it by their standards. And again, they don't judge them by regular standards.
Sounds like you're counting them out.
I'm not counting them out because last year I counted them out when Josh Gordon went down and had that work out.
Right.
So the offense was equally crappy last year, and then they figured it out, and we'll see if they figure it out this year at the same time. And look, let's not forget, they lost back-to-back games last year. They lost to the freaking Dolphins, and then they lost to the freaking Steelers, and then they went on to win the Super Bowl. So let's not not overreact too much here. Buccaneers at Lions. Oh boy, yeah, I guess we got to go to the Winston. Well, here we go. Let's do it.
Well,
Does Rashad Perryman pop up for you here?
Yeah,
with Evans out.
Yeah, he definitely does. I mean, there's got to be somebody that to step up because Darius Slay has shadowed before. If Chris Godwin's going to play in the slot, I expect that to be a thing. So I'm not saying to not play Godwin, but it is a tough.
I think OJ Howard and Perryman become very intriguing in this.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think OJ Howard becomes more involved in the offense, kind of force his way in there, whether Bruce Arians wants to or not. And Rashad Perryman as well. You want to go a little bit deeper, maybe Justin Watson, 8 targets, 5 grabs, 59 yards, and a score yesterday as well. So I'm intrigued with. I'll be intrigued with a lot of. I'll be going back to this well here with Winston and company. Maybe it's naked Winston again, or maybe I'll just go Winston OJ or Winston Justin Watson. But this is a phenomenal matchup against Detroit.
And I'm sure LineStar is going to like Galladay and Marvin Jones again this week. It makes sense. Titans and Texans. This is a huge game. And I think the Titans are the better football team right now.
Too.
I'll tell you what. I'm going to go in there with some Derrick Henry and some Tannehill again. I'm just going to keep doing it. Like, let's go. Let's do it. I just don't trust the Texans. Deshaun's great, but I just don't trust. This should be a fun game.
Should be.
I could see a lot of exposure to this one. Yeah, a lot on the line, everything all hanging out. Neither of these defenses are super impressive to me anyway. I'm not feeling the defenses here. Not with JJ Watt out. And the Titans are just fine. Like, then they're not something special defensively. So I could see some heavy stacking going on here on either side of this game.
Yeah, the Texans give up big plays too. They really do. So yeah, I could see. This is gonna be an entertaining football game, and there's a lot on the line. So yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said. I mean, I know AJ Brown's probably going to be pretty chalky, but you'd be silly not to take a shot on him against this Texans secondary. And yeah, I mean, DeAndre Hopkins is going to be one of the better.
Who'd have thought AJ Brown would be more coveted at this point in the year than Antonio Brown? I mean, amazing. Look what we've become. Look at what happened to us in 2019. Broncos and Chiefs. This is a fascinating trap game for the Chiefs. Talk about a huge letdown game. Locke was good this week, like you said. Defense is playing well. I don't think the Broncos are a perfect football team. They're probably not going to win. I don't know, man. I don't know how I feel. I'll tell you what. Mahomes, they've been winning games and stuff, but the Mahomes of last year, I don't know. He just doesn't seem healthy. He hurt his hand in this other game.
Yeah, keep an eye on that. That's huge. That could be huge, actually, Joe. The hand thing could be.
I don't know, man. I'm fading away from the Chiefs here against the Broncos. This is a game that's going to be a hard pass for me, I think.
Yeah, sure. I would agree with that, too. If Damian plays, maybe I have a little interest in him. But again, the backfield is just a complete mess. So, yeah, absolutely. If Fant, I think, is huge for Locke to have some success. But again, just 2 games, 5 touchdowns, 2 picks. He's been pretty solid. This will be a true test in KC for him, but right now I don't have a great feel. I feel like this could be actually kind of low scoring.
All right, so Dolphins at Giants. I kind of want to see what happens this week. Like, I want to see what's going on because do we have clarity? Is Daniel Jones just back next week?
I think he's 2 to 4 weeks. I think he's done.
I think he's done too. I don't see any reason to trot him back out there. Are we going down to the Saquon Barkley well one more time? I said I wouldn't do it, but here we are. It's week 15 coming, and the Dolphins are coming to town. Are we going to do it one more time?
Yeah, maybe. He hasn't had a run over 27 yards since week 2.
Stop depressing me. I'm already depressed about a lot of these things.
Man, it's gross. And I don't know what he's going to do against the Eagles. I mean, maybe catch a few balls out of the backfield. That Eagles run defense has been pretty solid all year long. But it's possible. It's Barkley. But yeah, against Miami, I think we give him one more go, right? Why not? Everyone seems to run all over the Dolphins. They give up a ton of points.
Eagles Redskins is next on the slate. I don't know if I have a real beat on this one. Again, I kind of want to see which Eagles team shows up this week. And all of that
But even
matters
then,
or
that's
not.
not gonna. Yeah, that's not
Yeah,
because you'll
I
still be
guess it
wondering
doesn't
the same
matter.
thing.
You're right.
Which team shows
Forget
up the
it.
following week?
Pass. No.
No.
No. I'm not going to do it.
Maybe Terry
No.
McLaurin. What a nice little one-hand grab he
Hey.
had in the end zone.
Yeah, I'll
That
tell
guy's
you,
awesome.
he's still in GPP consideration. Seahawks totally disappointing to me. I'm embarrassed for them.
They got stomped. They were never in
Yeah,
that game.
well, look, you should beat the Panthers next week, but coulda, shoulda, woulda, and at least Carson's back now. Look, the one thing I will say now that Penny's out, I'm going to go back to the Chris Carson hardcore this week against the Panthers.
Yeah, I had some Carson last night, thinking that most people would be on Penny, and I was correct. But Carson didn't have the good game. I mean, 15 for 76 is not bad, but he didn't.
Well, he didn't have the touchdown. If you have the touchdown, it gets better.
Yeah,
but look, the Panthers just let Devonta Freeman look relevant again. So I mean,
everybody is running all over them. So
I know.
Carson's in a great spot. Yeah, great cash game play.
Yeah, absolutely. Bears at Packers, another one. I don't know which Trubisky shows up. I have no idea. Another underwhelming Aaron Rodgers total. What's that?
But Trubisky had the best game of his career, I think, on Thursday.
I know. I have no idea.
What a weird week.
No idea. I mean, there's a part of me that wants to go, you know what? Let's do it. Let's go Trubisky and Allen Robinson. Let's go.
Yeah, I think Allen Robinson is, I think he's always in play.
Always.
Yeah, for sure. He's had to deal with so many just brutal quarterbacks, especially, this season with Trubisky early on. But yeah, he's always in play, man. He always seems to show up.
All right, here are the 4:00 games. You got the Vikings at Chargers. So right off the bat there, that's a fascinating one. You got the Vikings going on the road. I'll tell you what, Eckler catching the football out of the backfield, it's hard to ignore right now.
Yeah.
It's just tough to ignore. I know the Vikings are a good defensive team, but again, this is on the road, so I'm a little bit more apt to go down that well. Jaguars at Raiders. Ugh, gross. Yuck.
Oh,
no. I can't do this. And DJ Shark was another guy who got hurt. We forgot to mention
that's right.
him.
Walking boot. Yeah.
Walking boot, which means done. That's it. You're in that boot. You might as
Especially
well be in.
At this time of the year when you're looking at a 4-9 record, right? Shut him down.
Done. He's done. Nice piece for next year, though. Browns at Cardinals, another one where, I mean, I guess it's time to fire up the David Njoku shares.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Vance McDonald, I don't think he really did anything yesterday.
No, he's the only one. He's the only one.
Yeah.
He didn't throw him the ball, in all fairness.
Well, he left early, I think, with a concussion, which
what else is new? That's Vance McDonald.
It's
hard to throw the ball when you can't be on the field.
Yeah, I'm actually sick of people talking up Vance McDonald like he's going to show up, guys.
God.
Like, the Steelers they've been winning football games in their defense alone. You don't really want you're rolling the dice when you play any parts of their offense with James Washington. There was Deontay Johnson yesterday. But I'm looking at early spreads. I'm seeing Cleveland 2.5 against Arizona. Cleveland's a better football team, still fighting for, a glimmer of hope, playoff hope anyways. I'm going to go ahead actually and lock that one in now before I get into Thursday. Cleveland's going to win by a field goal in Arizona.
All right, Rams at Cowboys. Now, this one intrigues me. Now you've got my attention, Rams and Cowboys, because now I'm thinking it's time to get back in the Todd Gurley business. So, again, here we are. It's week 15 now, basically, or 14. We got one more game left to go, but it feels like it's time to get back in the Todd Gurley business. Am I right? Or right?
Yeah, you're right. And I've been trying to pull you over, right?
I've been reluctant, and with good reason. I've been reluctant.
You're right. For great reason. But yeah, I try to forget that Baltimore game, and what I noticed yesterday, and when I mentioned Cooper Kupp and only playing 55% of the snaps, which is pretty puzzling to be honest. I think that they are really just with Higbee and Woods. I think they're just, when you heard the reports about getting Todd Gurley involved, and I think that's the plan. Like, let's use these guys. Higbee has been great catching balls over the past couple of weeks, but he's also been pretty great in the run game and blocking and helping create some holes here for Todd Gurley. And you wonder if this was the game plan. I don't know. Was it part of the game plan, Joe, to just, okay, we're still a good football team. Let's limit Todd Gurley throughout the early parts of the season. We get into a certain point when it gets a little bit colder. We lean on the run game, and boom, let's hand it over to Todd Gurley, and let's see if he can be anything that he was last year when we gave him 20 to 25 touches. I don't know. It's very possible. So I'm in the Todd Gurley business with you as well. I can't get away from Robert Woods. I just can't. Brandon Cooks has just disappeared. He's not on the same page at all.
Another guy that once upon a time was a useful weapon for the Patriots. They don't have anybody like that. Nobody to stretch the field. Right. They don't have a big body in the red zone. That's why that offense is it's a failure. And they can't run the football. effectively because they've become too predictable because they know, everybody knows, is nobody else can catch the ball.
And have you seen other teams dial up as much pressure against Brady? In the past, have you seen recently?
Did.
Yeah, but recently, I feel like.
Well, that's because everybody knows that. Like
exactly.
It's out. You go up there, and Brady's not happy about it, but there's very little he could do.
Right.
And it's not like James White's the biggest guy to block. I mean, they had to bring Julian Edelman to block in one spot there in last night's game, which was madness.
Wow.
You ever see that happen? Julian, he threw a great block. Don't get me wrong, but still.
Yeah.
Last on the 4 o'clock, Falcons at 49ers. So, what do you make of this one? Are we just going to go there for all the Debo and the Samuel just go?
I think so. I mean, there's always that fear that I have that maybe Shanahan will just pull it back a little bit and this will be a run heavy game. It's possible.
Well, I'll tell you what, Mostert's earned my respect. I think he's the best one of that group now.
That's what I was going to say.
Do that.
Yeah, so I was going to say with Mostert, I mean, he's got 47 fantasy points over the last 2 weeks in a half-point setting. He's found the end zone in 3 straight games. He's catching balls out of the backfield. He runs really hard. I like the way he runs. I mean, I spent like 350 fab on him, I think, after maybe week 3, and then he just kind of disappeared and got hurt. So I'm a believer. I think he runs with a purpose. I'm going to like him against the Falcons.
Steelers Bills the Sunday night game. That's going to be a slugfest too. Look at that. Look at this slugfest. These defenses going at it. And then you got Colts at Saints. We'll find out here. I'm telling you, man, the Saints, I feel like the Saints should have been this team this year. And every time they just can't.
They would lose those big games, don't they?
Yeah, they really do. Or they lose games they shouldn't lose. It's so weird. They're such a weird enigma this season. I don't know what to think of them. But look, your week 15 is looking pretty hot. There's definitely some games to get in on. And definitely where that Texans-Titans game, get in on those Buccaneers. We'll see what happens with the Giants tonight in the new look Eli Manning offense. But the Rams Cowboys too should be a lot of offense. This again, it's time to pay up because it's that time of year and teams are quitting and things are going on, and that's what it looks like. So without any further ado, that'll kind of end it for us. We'll be back again on Thursday, breaking things down for you, DFS style, and then Mike Randall and I will be back on Friday to break down the wagering slate with the pre-snap picks show. So in the meantime, you can follow us on the Twitter machine at Chris Meaney, at Joe Pisapia 17, and of course at LineStar NFL and LineStar DFS, or LineStar App, I should say. So that'll do it for me and Chris. Pre-snap is over. It's time to break the huddle. There's nothing left to do now except set, down, win.
You've been listening to the PreSnap Podcast, brought to you by LineStar. Hit subscribe, tell a friend, and stay tuned for the next episode from fantasy football experts Joe Pisapia and Chris Meaney.